Welcome to the Criminologist Podcast. Our goal here is to educate and enlighten our listeners, focusing on the latest and greatest evidence-based interventions to help individuals desist from a life of crime and delinquency. And not only those factors which drive folks into crime, we also look at the reasons why people exit a life of crime. Also, we attempt to paint an accurate picture of that journey from the perspective of the justice-involved individual. Too often, our perceptions of those involved in the system are tainted by media-driven caricatures created to sell newspapers or movie tickets. This adds little to a healthy dialogue as to how to best address criminality. This podcast will avoid stereotypes and biases. We will endeavor to accomplish the first two goals in a way that keep you, the listener, interested and even entertained. And now, the host of The Criminologist, Joseph Arvidsson.
Hello, and welcome to episode 57 of the Criminologist Podcast. Happy to have you all with us today. Hey, we did it. I have been promoting our YouTube channel, The Criminologist, over the past couple of weeks, and I am so pleased to announce that we hit the 100 subscriber mark. Thank you to all who subscribed and help us reach that milestone. Life is all about setting goals and aspiring to reach them, is it not? And of course, enjoying the journey along the way. Speaking of journeys, today I am going to be introducing you to an individual who has agreed to share his incredible journey with us all. Noel Moran is currently the business manager at Penal Reform Solutions in London, England. Noel joined Penal Reform Solutions as a researcher in September of 2016. This led to him becoming the business manager in 2019, and he's currently central to that organization's development. Noel is a major advocate in positive change and believes everyone has the capability to unlock their highest potential. As you are all about to hear, Noel specializes in growing organizational culture, rehabilitative work, motivational speaking, program design and delivery, equality and diversity. Noel also is going to tell you about his work with yoga and mindfulness. In fact, he has created a unique 10-week mindfulness-based yoga program, adopting and integrating the principles of growth through creative visualizations, meditation, and positive affirmations, mental health, even relapse prevention. Noel delivers motivational speaking to prisons, schools, and the wider community. He enjoys empowering and inspiring others, delivering presentations on his own difficulties and traumas that he faced within his life. He's going to tell you all about his journey coming up, so let's get right to my recent conversation with Noel Moran, and I will see you all on the other side. Okay, well, why don't we start off, Noel, by just tell us a little bit about yourself and, generally speaking, just tell our listeners about the journey you've been on.
Well, it's definitely been a journey. Hello everybody. And hello, Joe. It's lovely to be here. So my journey started in the criminal justice system as a young 21-year-old man getting a life sentence in 2006. So I got caught up on a joint enterprise guilty by association. I wasn't the one who actually committed the crime, but happened just to be there when it happened and got found guilty for it, along with another person. So going to jail, I remember just coming back from my verdict and just in shock. A couple of guys come into my cell and they just asked me, how you doing? Are you okay? And I just said, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm all right. And then one of them asked me, how's your mom? And that was it. I just remember, my mom in the court and her screaming, and that just kind of hit me straight away. And I think I probably cried probably a bucket of tears, at that point. And, it really kind of hit me then. And so I said to myself that night, I said, I'm never going to shed a tear again for the system. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to see this through. I'm going to better myself. I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to do right. And, I've kept to that promise the whole way through. And, my sentence was life with 15 years. And just kind of going through the sentence, prison is a difficult place, especially kind of as a young man at that age, and just kind of having a lack of support. I got asked did I want to do counselling, and I thought, I'll give it a go. And I waited 3 years, and they come back to me and said, yeah, we've got you a space now. 3 years later down the line, I said, I said, I don't need it now. I'm managing myself. I'm doing good with my own support networks, which are my family and friends. And, family have been a real kind of rock throughout this process. And, it is major to have that support, someone to turn to and someone to speak to, and, just seeing their faces. I remember being in situations where I did feel really low, and just seeing, say, my sister and my niece or something on a visit, and just looking at them, boom, it just kind of brought me back and, helped me to kind of continue to fight. And I've always found myself kind of coming back to my promise as well, that I promised myself that, I'm going to see this through, and I'm going to do everything right. And if you break a promise to yourself, then, what kind of person are you? So I can kind of continue with that. So as my journey went on, I started to educate myself as much as I possibly can. I can't even count how many qualifications I've gained throughout the years. But the most really kind of significant thing for me, I found within prison, I had a dream one night that I was doing this kind of vigorous yoga sequence, something, yoga didn't appeal to me at all at the time. I didn't even know what yoga was. If you would have said, yeah, do you want to do yoga? I'd be like, what, yoga, schmoga? I would have dismissed it, and meditation. But it just intrigued me. So I went to the library and I got a couple of books, and I started to read, study. And just the benefits of kind of from the mindfulness point, and how it worked with the brain, and how it restructured the brain, and the physical benefits on the body. I thought, because I was well into my fitness and stuff anyway. So I thought, I'm going to give this a try. So after about 6 weeks, I attempted what's called the primary series of Ashtanga yoga, which is a strong kind of flowing sequence. And when I say an attempt, that's exactly what it was. It was an attempt, but I just remember straight away just having that mind, body, soul connection from the outset, and that got me hooked. So I continued to practice over the years, and, really kind of developed that. And so I took it on to, I was working with lads, they were prolific self-harmers and really kind of vulnerable guys. I was doing mentoring roles, and kind of it was kind of like a counseling role. It's called a listener over here. So it's a Samaritan role. And I found, what yoga had done for me, it really kind of grounded me, really kind of made me balance. It's, even though I'd done this long in prison, I felt my body was here, but my mind was free. No matter what was chucked at me, I found it didn't affect me, it just built up a wall, and just give me kind of more courage, give me more confidence, and just to brush things off kind of a lot more easier, and just remaining calm in kind of every situation. So I thought, these guys who, some of them kind of schizophrenia, some of them kind of other serious issues. I thought, I really want to kind of help these with it. So I started doing meditation classes with them. So kind of with the meditation classes, they were really kind of starting to benefit with that. So it was kind of mindfulness meditations. And I was doing deep relaxations, which is called yoga nidra, which means yogic sleep. So a lot of them kind of loved that. It just kind of takes you to another level. And I found when I do that practice myself as well, it's when I come out of it, just having that mindfulness side of it, being in the moment, there's no feeling like it, because when you're in the moment, you've got no cares, you've got no worries, you're not thinking about the future, you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about any concerns or any issues. You're present. And I know it sounds weird in jail, like you don't want to be present in the moment, you want to be out of there. But actually, when you do find yourself in that particular moment, there's no better feeling than it. And kind of just from a mindfulness perspective, it doesn't take long to kind of train your brain, after kind of about 8 weeks or 9 weeks period, neurologists have kind of found in research and studies that the brain structure actually starts to change shape. And, and that's that kind of part of the brain, which, is connected to our emotions and kind of our feelings. So that's why after that period, you start to become more calmer and calmer and calmer. But I understand it, because look, if you go to the gym for 8 weeks and you work on your arms and you just do arms for 8 weeks, you know, you're going to have some big, some big guns, aren't you? So you work on your brain for 8 weeks, you know, something's going to happen. Something's going to change. Yeah. I'm not saying you're going to get a big brain or a big head, but, you know, so something's definitely going to happen. So, you know, I definitely recommend it. So kind of after kind of doing that stuff, and I thought, you know what, I want to kind of introduce the physical aspect of this, because I was working with a guy. He used to self-harm pretty bad on his arms, and it was just by chance, really. I tried a physical practice with him. It was like a stretch kind of within the wrist and the forearms. And as he was coming out of the practice, because it's a really kind of strong stretch, you know, you really do feel it. And as he was coming out of it, you know, he was just kind of in a daze. And obviously, you know, as well, I wasn't a teacher at the time, you know, but I'll come to that, you know, like I was looking at him and I was asking, you know, what's going on? And he's like, do you know what? He says, I'm getting the same feeling as I do when I self-harm, that release from this stretch. And I was, you know, that was amazing to me. I thought, okay, you know, I'm going to use that, you know, like I could definitely use that now. And, so I contacted the British School of Yoga, and, I explained where I was within my practice and kind of where I was within my teaching. And, I wanted to do a yoga teacher qualification with them. So whilst inside, they allowed me to do a level 4 yoga teacher qualification and a level 3 mindfulness practitioner. So kind of with that then, you know, there was a really good governor in the prison at the time. You know, he was probably one of the, if not, he is the best governor that I've come across. And, I will name him. I'm sure he won't mind. Steve Robertson. You know, he gave me a really great opportunity to kind of excel at something. You know, he gave that trust to kind of go around the prison, and I started teaching staff. I started teaching, you know, all different groups. I was incorporating my kind of yoga into kind of different programs within the prison. And, you know, I never had a negative feedback from it once. I think the only probably bit of negativity that I found within the classes was there was this guy one day, and something was up with him. He was quite hostile. And, there was a big group. There was about 15 lads within this class. And I thought, okay, you know, I don't really want this to escalate here now, you know, so I need to do something to kind of just, you know, resolve the situation and, you know, to disarm him really, you know, by showing a bit of love. So I just stood up and I said, do you know what you need, mate? And he's like, what's that? I said, you need a hug. He's like, what? I said, yeah. I said, yeah, you need a hug. And like, everyone's just looking at me thinking, are you serious? Like, we're in a prison now, you know, we're all prisoners, and this fella's calling out this fella for a hug who's been hostile. And so I put up my arms, and he come over and he gave me a hug. And you know what? It just changed the whole dynamics of the class. Because how can you be hostile to someone who's showing you love? You know, it completely disarmed him. And he come to me after the class, yeah, and he said to me, do you know what? He said, thanks very much for that. He said, you know, like, that made me feel so much better. Like, not in a weird way or anything like that, you know, but I think some people probably just need, you know, just that someone actually cares, you know, and, you know, just show a little bit of compassion to them. So kind of with everything going on, and I thought, all right, you know, I want to kind of take my yoga a little bit further now. By this time, I've been practicing and I've been teaching for a good while. So probably maybe I've been probably practicing coming up to probably the 8-9 year mark. And, then obviously the teaching side, I was teaching before I got qualified as well. So I was probably teaching for a couple of years. I thought I want to do something a bit bigger. So I thought I want to create a brand. So I thought, okay, what brand, what can I call it? And I was thinking, okay, well, it's my practice. It's my teaching. I taught myself. So why not Noela Yoga? And so with that, I thought, okay, what I need to do now then is I want to write a course. So I really kind of got my head together, and, you know, I really kind of thought, you know, what program can benefit people within prison. So I had an A4 piece of paper, and I drew out a mind map on this A4 piece of paper because I had all this information kind of processing in my head, and I thought, okay, I need to get it out. I've got all these ideas. So I had an A4 piece of paper, did it. And then I found that the A4 piece of paper wasn't big enough, so I stuck another one to it. And I found that wasn't big enough. Then I stuck another one. That wasn't big enough. So by the end, I was in this small little cell, and I had about 30 A4 pieces of paper stuck together. It was just the biggest mind map that I've ever seen in my life. But it took me probably a couple of weeks to do it. But then looking at it, once it was done, I just looked at it and I thought, okay, I've got it. I know what I need to do now. So basically I created a 10-week mindfulness-based yoga course. And with that, it was my lived experience about how I kind of found dealing with guys with serious mental health issues and the problems that they were going through. It was my experience of how I found yoga and, how I incorporated that into my life and how I incorporated it into the prison life. So we actually, another teacher got involved with the program. So she kind of helped with kind of collaboration and putting it together. And then also, a lady called Dr. Sarah Lewis helped with kind of principles of growth, which it wasn't only a mindfulness based yoga course. This lady, Dr. Lewis, she went out to Norwegian prisons and she did research out there. And, kind of because the climate in obviously Norway and the climate in the UK, especially in the prison sector, it's just completely different. So she founded kind of 10 different principles of growth. So it's like basically building relationships, promoting well-being, experiencing joy and peace, experiencing normality, freedom, constructing a positive climate, connecting with nature. And I thought, wow, I want to incorporate these into this manual. And, so I put it all together and we did. So with that then, so the aim of the course is by the end of it, we wanted to, so it was 10 sessions, for 10 3-hour sessions. We wanted to give the guys, their own practice. So by the end of it, they would have developed it, whether it was a physical practice, whether it was a meditative practice or whatever it was, they would have taken something from it. So we had 12 participants come on. So I'll just have a little talk about the participants and kind of how they felt from the actual course itself. So there was one guy who was a prolific self-harmer and he used to self-harm all the time. Throughout the program, he never had any thoughts of self-harm and, he never self-harmed at all throughout the program. And I can't say whether he did or not afterwards because obviously I wasn't privy to kind of seeing him, he went on a different journey. But I hope it helped him along the way. There was one guy he was a paranoid schizophrenic. He used to hear voices quite a lot in his head. And what he found with the program, he found his voices slowed down a little bit. They didn't stop. But what he found when he was doing the meditations and the relaxations, that the voices stopped completely. One other guy was, which was really good. He suffered from chronic fatigue syndrome. And I remember going to see him before I went to the course and the staff said to me, he won't get out of bed. He doesn't get out of bed till 2-3 o'clock in the day. So I just went into his cell and he was in his bed and I'm chatting away to him. I'm telling him, this is what I'm doing. I'd like you to get involved. And so, he made an effort and he come along. 2 weeks later, he come to me and he said, you know what? He said, thanks. I've got my life back. And I said, what do you mean? He said, 8 years I've been on medication. He said, I just lost control. He said, I feel in control. He said, I've come off my medication. He said, I'm getting up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to the gym, I'm working. And I don't know whether it was the course itself, that played a part in it, but maybe from a psychological basis, it gave him that drive, it gave him that kickstart in kind of, in what he needed and, and it worked. All the guys on the course, their sleep improved by 100%, every single one of them, so it was a really kind of magnificent course. So my plan with it now is I want to roll that out nationally. I want to take that everywhere because I think, there's definitely a desperate need for it. And there's no better person to come in and say, I know how you feel. This is what I did when I was in your situation and this is how I'm going to help you. So that's my aim from there.
That is an inspiring story, Noel. The fact that you just took that, sort of self-educated yourself, teamed up with the powers that be to get your official yoga credentials, as it were, and then helping others. Amazing illustration of what works in reintegration and reentry, and you're living proof of that. Yeah. In your experience, maybe share with us again other things that work, and also maybe some things that don't work that the public or policyholders would behoove them to know about. Yeah.
I think probably things that do work in prison, it's giving people trust, and it's about allowing people as well to make mistakes, because you got to remember, people coming to prison, they're not angels, so, but the problem, what you find though, is that as a prisoner, you're not allowed to have a bad day. So you can't vent, you can't scream, you can't say, I swear or whatever, and which normal people do. But in prison, if you do that, it's written down and then it's going on your file and then you're being judged for it and it's going against you. So, you've got to tread very carefully kind of what you say. But I think in terms of, it's definitely about relationships. relationships with staff, about building them relationships and kind of just narrowing that gap and find some similarities between each other, because there's no trust within the prison system. If you can build trust, then you start to build hope, because hope is probably one of the things that's just taken away from prison, and I remember even till the day I got out, I very hard to find hope within prison, because, you get so many things chucked at you. You build yourself up, you'll do something good, and then, the system will somehow just kind of drag you back down. So, for somebody with mental health issues or someone that's going through serious issues, that's a big problem for them. But it's definitely about kind of management and kind of, dealing with things, talking about things, because sometimes staff, they'll write you up and, they'll put stuff on your file, but they won't tell you about it. So obviously if you're coming to like whether it's going out on a day release, you're in open prisons, or you're coming to a parole, and then you find all this information, you're like, whoa, what's going on? So I've often spoken to staff about this, and I said, look, if you've got an issue, then challenge me on that issue, speak to me about it openly. And then if I'm in the wrong, then it gives me room to grow. But if you don't tell me, then I don't know, then I can't grow. So that communication is key, I think. Mm-hmm. They have obviously offender behavior programs and stuff like that in prisons. Some of them, they are positive, and you do learn a lot of skills from them. And, change comes about from wanting to change. Somebody can't tell you, I'm forcing you to do this course, and I want you to do this, and I want you to do it, because there's no worse thing than telling someone what to do, especially a grown up, like no one likes being told, because, no one likes having someone having control over them. So kind of in that instance with the programs itself, like some people that come out of the programs, they'll have the information in their head, give it a couple of months, that information's gone. You'll probably remember, say, kind of 5% about it. So what I would do, I would find people coming into prison, and I would talk with them. I would find out exactly what skills they've got, what they want to do, what their hobbies are, what they want to, find out what you want them to excel at, and then give them the opportunity to grow. That's the biggest thing. And if they do make mistakes, then, people do make mistakes in life. As I said earlier, they're not angels. So, don't deal with it in a punitive way, because when you deal with it in a punitive way, then it just backs each other up. It puts you in the red zone. Relationships should be in the green zone. So, and as a professional, I'm a professional now, and staff are professionals. Staff should always keep themselves in the green zone. Mm-hmm. Some do, but some don't, so, that's something that needs to be spoken about.
Yeah, I love that. And I can relate to the red zone, green zone.
Yeah.
Here in the United States, and I know also in the United Kingdom, we're realizing the important role that culture plays in making organizational changes. And I know some of the work you're doing now is around growing organizational culture. Maybe share some of your insights with that.
So kind of growing organizational culture. So again, it's about identifying, it's about finding out, doing a complete needs analysis and assessment on an environment, which kind of takes quite a while. So if you're talking about a prison, say 400, 500, 600 people within a prison, including staff, say 100 staff, a needs analysis can take up to 6 months or more. So what that is that's about going in there and capturing things, going and interviewing people, doing focus groups. But what it does, this needs analysis in itself, it's not just us going in and talking to people and say, yeah, blah, 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 tell us your problems. It's giving people a voice, because people feel in prisons, staff and residents, that the both of them feel that they haven't got a voice. So it gives everyone an opportunity to say, actually, do you know what? I feel this way, and I feel this works better, and I feel that works better. So then we take that away, we write a report on it, and then kind of our next stage is implementation. So we look at, okay, this is the problem, this is how we're going to fix it. So we'll design bespoke programs specifically for that environment.
You mentioned our mutual connection, Sarah Lewis, earlier, and the great work she does at Penal Reform Solutions. So maybe tell our listeners about how you fell into that orbit and your current role with Penal Reform Solutions.
Yeah, well, Dr. Sarah Lewis, she's my favorite person in the whole world. She's just such a magnificent woman. I don't think I've ever met anyone like her. I call her 10 brains, because she has got 10 brains. She's just that intelligent. But I remember coming across her. It was by accident I come across her because I was supposed to be at another meeting. So this was in a prison at the time. The prison was a special measures prison. So that means it was kind of in one of the worst categories of prisons within the country for violence, self-harm, drug use, suicides and all that kind of stuff, and having a complete kind of negative culture. So I was supposed to go to a volunteer meeting that day, and then I was walking through the chapel and I come across Sarah giving a talk. So I stopped anyway, and I just, I sat down and I just started listening to her, and I thought, do you know what? Like, I see a glimmer of hope there. And she was talking about the research that she did in the Norwegian prisons, which I spoke about earlier, and which she founded the principles of growth. And then she said that she wanted to incorporate them here into the UK prisons. And she was looking for resident researchers to get involved with her to help her with the project. So at this stage, so this was the needs analysis stage. So she wanted us to do that with her. So I thought, you know what? This is something that I want to be involved in. This is something, a bit of me. And, I signed up for it straight away, and I just remember kind of speaking to her and just kind of listening to her. I don't think I've felt someone so passionate about, wanting to help and wanting to have that positive change. And I felt that way myself, and she just really gave me a drive, to kind of get involved in this. So with that then, so she's the director of Penal Reform Solutions. So with that, we continued to kind of do our needs analysis. She trained us up in a lot of kind of different stuff around analyzing data and informatic analysis and all that kind of stuff. So, and criminology, and, basically geared us up for what we needed to do to go on the ground and kind of deal with people. So we were given the trust. It was me and about 10 others to go around the whole prison and do interviews. And we even had cameras. We was capturing stuff by photo photography and stuff like that, and photo photography, is brilliant because when we was going to guys and we was asking, okay, so if you was to take a picture in this environment that you feel that promotes personal growth within you, what would it be? So some guys would take pictures of cooking facilities or the sports or the gym, or to take it of the sky, or kind of within the prison you could see like trees, and there was quite a bit of nature there, so kind of connected with nature. And what we found from this particular photo essay, we found all the 10 principles that Sarah founded in Norway. We found it within this photo essay. So we thought, okay, yeah, so we're onto something here. And I remember from the outset, some of the staff were like, who's this woman coming in? Who does she think she is? She coming in telling us what to do, and it was quite, but some of the men as well, they were like, nah, this ain't going to work. This ain't going to work, because you hear it all the time, try to implement stuff and they said, no, this ain't going to work. So kind of, this actual staff that said this ain't going to work. I remember about 6 months into the project, they were coming up to us and say, oh, what can we do? Can we do something? Oh, this is brilliant. Yeah, we want to get involved, just completely changed their attitude, which is brilliant. So a lot of training went on with the staff around relationships, and kind of train and stuff. So it wasn't just the needs analysis, there was all kind of group training with, SMT, the senior management team, and kind of governors and everyone. So it was a whole system approach kind of at this time. And we were getting to every single person within the prison, so everyone was involved. There was that, it took away that complete negative culture. And I remember we put together these well-being days on the wings. So what we did, we went on each wing and we said, right, the wing, the residents and the staff, you come up with an idea of what you would like. So we had kind of budget, we did fundraising stuff, what you would like for a well-being day on your wing. So some of them kind of cookery stuff, games and all that kind of stuff, music, kind of therapy and, holistic healing, yoga. I did my practice in yoga and stuff with them. So there was a big wide range of stuff. But on these particular days, what was different from any other day in prison, that not one single alarm bell went off on that wing. Not one, there wasn't one fight, there wasn't one OD, or, there was nothing happening. Everyone was there enjoying themselves, that community feel. Some of the staff come in, that had their uniform off, they come in plain clothes, which I think was really good as well, because it also showed the men that actually they're not just a uniform, they're actually a person, so it was easier to kind of relate to them. So kind of after these events, we did it. It took us a couple of months, so we went around wing by wing and did it that way. So we were sitting there one day and we thought, okay, how can we make this different? And, we'll do something better. And we thought, how about we have a community day and get the whole prison out together? so we was like, what? So that was a brave idea. So we went to the governor and, said it to him that, yeah, this is what we plan to do. And like, it's fair play to the governor, because you wouldn't see a lot of governors that do this. He was like, right, yeah, let's do it. It was a massive risk, having the whole entire prison. It was like, I think it was like 500 something prisoners out in the one go. So it kind of replicated the well-being days. So it had, our birds of prey and kind of reptiles. It had bands and music. It was like a big, massive community fair. Mm-hmm. I can't actually tell you, I was involved in a lot of the planning of it, but I can't actually tell you too much about the day itself, just because just about 2 weeks before it, I got moved to an open prison. So an open prison is kind of a progressive move over here in this country. And, so I kind of moved on from there. But with that then, as I moved on, I, stayed in contact with the company, Penal Reform Solutions. And with that, they offered me, a placement, because in the open prison, you can come out and work on your day releases. So they offered me a placement as the business manager for the company, and, I was really honored, to be kind of offered that role. It showed that Sarah had trust in me. She had faith in me, that I could do this. So whilst in a DCAT, I continued to kind of do my role as a business manager within the company. And then on release, which I'm released now, I continue to this day doing the business manager of the company, and I'm stuck with it. I'm dedicated to it. I'm so passionate about it. Just if I can go in there and just tell people, my journey and what I've been through, and give them a glimmer of hope and implement our projects, that's exactly what I want to do. I remember speaking to one guy once in another prison, because when I was in the open prison, there was a prison next door. Mm-hmm. And, so I went in there and I was doing yoga. So I had all my yoga gear on, and they're looking at me thinking, yeah, who's this guy? He's a yoga teacher. And then one of them come over and he was just asking me questions, and I told him, yeah, I'm a prisoner from next door, and like, this is what I'm doing. I'm a yoga teacher. He's like, what? And then he called his mates over, and before you know it, there was about 20 of them standing around, and they were like rabbits in the headlights listening to me, they were just zoned in on me. And, and it was really good for me. It was really inspiring. I felt really good about it, and they were listening to every single word. And I was like, look, lads, I know at this stage, because these guys, some of them had 15, 20 years left. And I said, at this stage, you don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, but if you keep yourself focused, you find the drive, get through the days. And like, every day in prison is a mental battle. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what the media says or anyone says, prisons or holiday camps or whatever they are. They're not. Every single day you wake up, you're in prison. It's your freedom, your liberty is taken away from you. You don't see your family, and especially throughout the pandemic, that's doubled. Some guys are in their cells 23 hours a day. They can't even use their phones. They can't even get showers. So, it's no joke.
This may be a good segue to one of my next questions was, from your perspective, what's one thing that the public and the media kind of get wrong about prisons or our rehabilitation efforts, or the sort of the system as it were?
I think because the problem is when you see prisons on telly, for some reason the media pick the worst, or the film group pick the worst people within that prison. They don't pick anyone actually that's doing really good stuff, so they pick the guys who have issues, or pick the guys who's fighting, or pick the guys who's getting in trouble. So obviously the media see that, and they think, okay, if that's them, they think that every prisoner is like that. They have that perception. But what I have found is actually the public actually have a different perception when you actually explain things to them, because when I speak to people within my business and I tell them, my story, and they're actually, it gives them a completely different perspective, because they don't expect it. They expect you to be someone else, or, what's written down on paper about someone and what that person is two completely different things. But, it's the media blow it out of proportion as well, because you don't actually see the public on the papers saying it. You see the journalists on the papers saying it. So kind of that's the issues. I think what should happen, to kind of help with that is a lot of prisons, they're in local communities are nearby. Get the local communities involved, and do workshops and things and do stuff that you can sell to your local communities, or you can buy, because a lot of them have businesses and shops, kind of get it involved. And I know, from speaking with communities near prisons within my job role, that actually a lot of them do want to get involved in the prisons. They actually really do care about it, and because it's their next door, isn't it? So, they want to know what's going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned the fact that you had an awesome governor, which I should clarify to our listeners here is the equivalent of a warden in our U.S. prisons. But a lot of the listeners of this show are a little bit further down the food chain, if you will, from the governors and the wardens. Just speaking, let's say to first or second year probation officer or parole officer, what's a bit of advice that you would give them that they're not going to learn in a textbook or a training program or a college course that would, again, sort of prepare them with supervising and interacting with justice-informed individuals?
Yeah. I think, especially I'll go from a prison point of view, then I'll go from it from a release point of view. I think in the prison point of view, it's about, looking at the risk assessments properly, because risk assessments, they're so difficult. In this country, they call it an OASIS document. Mm-hmm. So an OASIS is basically your whole kind of risk assessment that from kind of previous, maybe childhood and issues, problems, housing, relationships, blah, 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 drug use, self-harm, or, and your criminal record. But the problem is that with these particular documents, they're terrible for cut and paste. So say, like, for instance, I'll use mine as an example. So my first OASIS document was done in 2006. And it was done by a probation officer who had never met me before, and she just come into the court after my conviction and she interviewed me. And a lot of the stuff actually wasn't entirely accurate. I don't know whether at the time I wasn't coming across articulate enough, or she perceived what I was saying in a different way, so it wasn't entirely accurate. But the issue with that is, now that was on there, I couldn't take it off. So the next probation officer come along, she copy and paste that. And then the next probation officer come along, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. So all these years, it's been copy and paste through. So I think with a new probation officer, they need to look at that. When they sit down, they need to look, actually, is this document an historical document? I need to actually reset this. I need to actually do the findings, do the research myself, and I need to interview this person, and I need to make my own assessment. I can't make an assessment of a probation officer 15, 10 years ago, whatever it is, who I'd never met. I need to make my own assessment of this person. That's what they need. And they need to listen, and they need to challenge, not just write stuff down. If there's an issue, just say, look, this is an issue. This is what's going on. And, this is how we can help you grow, because probation should be seen as a support network. I don't think they should be seen as punitive, but a lot of people do see them as punitive because they're the people who recall you to prison. They're the people who have the power. So, but for a probation officer, it's about not showing that you have the power. It's about helping, and it's about supporting. And I have come across really good ones. I have come across ones that, that have helped me along the way so much, and I'm grateful for that. And, and if ones are not, then I'm open to challenge them. I'm open to say it, assertively, and kind of put them into place. It might not go in my favor, but I think, if there's an issue, then, just put it on the table and talk about it. That's kind of the best way to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think kind of getting out of prison, kind of probation officers dealing with it is to just give a bit of trust, and maybe just take a little step back. Don't be on their case, because this person is released. When a judge sentences you, say my instance is life of 15 years. Don't say, okay, life of 15 years, then you got to be pestered after that. So let them live their life. If they mess up, then okay, they can be held accountable for it. But, support them, guide them, and just don't niggle in their affairs, really, because they're out, they're free, and, let them be free.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's great advice. Yeah. You mentioned your growing yoga practice now. Let's loop back to that and let's promote that a little bit and expand on that. So if someone's listening in the UK or maybe even here in the States and they want to explore your 10-week course or learn more about yoga, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say about the States, because I'm actually in contact with a lot of yoga teachers in the States who want to get involved in collaboration with it. So my next stage is, I'm thinking big. If you don't think big, you don't get anywhere. So the plan is I'm going to roll it out nationally over here, and then I want to take it worldwide. We're currently in discussions with a guy in Arizona who's going to be hopefully, get involved in the prison service there, and hopefully we can implement our growth project within that. And hopefully, I can take the course on there, but I want to kind of reach out to wardens over there directly and kind of, this is what I've got. I wouldn't be able to come over myself and deliver it, but I have all these teachers that was really keen to get involved. So what I would do is, every teacher that gets involved, I would train them up. We've got a Passport to Growth program, which we train practitioners working with service users. So it's a really good program, but we've also now adapted it to take it into kind of businesses and charities and stuff like that as well. So we would get these yoga teachers, we would train them up within that. And then I would train them up then within the manual itself. And then, I'd make sure that they're right and they understand exactly what it is that I want taught. And because they wouldn't be on it if they weren't competent yoga teachers anyway. So I would kind of do it that way. But here in the UK, the model is I want to find people like myself within prisons. I want to find, like by doing the program, I want to find people that's passionate and want that growth with themselves and want to help other people grow. And I want them to get involved in the program. I want to train them up in yoga. I want to get them qualified. I want to get them qualified in my course to deliver it. And then I want to put them together then with an experienced yoga teacher from outside and then have them going back and delivering it. So it's not only giving the people within the prisons that, that great opportunity to have this course, it's also giving a person a career opportunity to get involved in the program as well. So the course it's called Noela Yoga, mindfulness based yoga. So, it will be out there. So people keep an eye out for it, because it is going places. I'm extremely passionate about it. I've put so much kind of work and effort into it, and I'm determined, I've got through a life sentence. So if I've done that, then I'm sure I can get this course out there.
I love your attitude and I love the inspiration. Noel, if you've got contact information, I can work with you after the interview and we can plug in your contact information into the description of the podcast. Or, of course, folks can just reach out to me and I can connect them with you. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing your work with us, the great work you're doing both with yoga and, of course, we know with Penal Reform Solutions. Thanks again, Noel. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem. Enjoyed it.
Be well, friend.
Thank you. You too.
If you are a loyal listener to the show, you clearly are aware of our fondness for evidence-based practices. After speaking to and learning from Noel, however, it really does challenge us not to be so rigid in deciding which approaches we take when endeavoring to serve justice-informed individuals. Many of you may be familiar with the term correctional quackery. Certainly, if you're a follower or adherent to the works of the University of Cincinnati or Dr. Ed Latessa, he would clearly place yoga, for example, into that camp of approaches that the evidence-based world may steer clear of. But I would also note that even agencies that adhere to strict, well-established, evidence-based practice approaches are only seeing effect sizes in that 20 to 30% range at best, which is to say we owe it to ourselves and to our stakeholders to continue exploring the universe of possibilities when it comes to what works in promoting not just recidivism reduction, but in desistance from crime. And I thank Noel for helping us on that journey of discovery. In 20, 30, 40, 50 years, hopefully less, I'm sure the galaxy of what is considered evidence-based practices will include so many more things that aren't in that small little bucket, if you will, of approaches that we should take. So again, I encourage everyone to remain open-minded. And again, let's turn to the true subject matter experts, those who are desisted or on their pathway towards desistance, to learn from their experiences. You can follow Noel on Instagram. Simply search for Noela Yoga to find him. It's a great Instagram feed. I follow it myself. Hey, we will be back next week with a fresh episode. In the meantime, you may contact the show or reach out to us through our website, the Paragon Group, LLC.com, for training or presentations as to evidence-based practices and or implementation, or of course, the topic of desistance from crime. If you have questions or comments as to this podcast, feel free to contact the show via our email at thecriminologistpodcast@gmail.com. That's thecriminologistpodcast@gmail.com. Remember to follow us through our Facebook page and our Instagram page at The Criminologist Podcast. New fun images are being added all the time to those feeds. You don't want to miss out. We are also on Twitter at Crim Media Group is our Twitter handle, at Crim Media Group. Go ahead, give us a follow. You can also connect with me, Joseph Arvidsson, on LinkedIn and follow both the Criminologist Podcast and the Paragon Group on our LinkedIn pages. Lastly, if you've not already done so, check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Criminologist, for additional content as to the themes of this podcast. Merchandise is available. Reach out if you're interested. And if you believe in what we're doing here on the show, if you're part of the movement, please spread the word. Tell a friend or a coworker or a colleague about us. Ask them to subscribe to the show. And of course, do so yourself if you've not already done so. And always remember, folks, there's no them. There's only us.
The Criminologist Podcast is a production of the Paragon Group, LLC. For speaking engagements, interviews, program design, training opportunities, or to contact the host, please visit us at theparagongroup.llc.com. Click on the Contact Us tab in the upper right-hand side of the page. Be sure to give us a 5-star review, and thanks for listening.
The thoughts, statements, and opinions of the host and cast members do not necessarily reflect the views of their employers and are those of the host and cast themselves. Any discussion regarding client statements, behaviors, actions, or crimes are purely fictional and are used only for the purposes of example. Any examples that could be deemed to be related to an actual individual or individuals are incidental.